welcome to Vegas.
Good morning, everyone. Are DSLRs dead in 2019? Oh yeah, let's go. Alright guys, welcome to a new episode. Hope you're having an amazing day. Today we're in Las Vegas and I want to give a little bit update on DSLR versus mirrorless in 2019, because some of you might be wondering, should I get a DSLR, should I get a mirrorless camera, which one should I switch to, or which one should be my first camera? Well, last year I did the 2018 version of that video, and nowadays, after more than 1 year of usage of that mirrorless camera that I have Sony a7R III, well, there are a lot of stuff I want to share with you, and especially considering that the whole world on mirrorless really changed in 2018 and 19. So if you're ready, I'm going to start by giving you a little overview of how it was until 2018, how I felt about mirrorless until I got that camera, and what really changed from my usage after more than a year nowadays. Let's go. So, up until recently, that's something I mentioned in the previous video in 2018. The biggest problems with the mirrorless cameras is that the batteries were not good enough on the full frame versions, meaning you had to go through them like Sour Patch. You would use 5-6 batteries when you would be using only one on a DSLR. And that was a big deal breaker for me as a travel photographer, because you don't want to carry too many batteries, you don't want to have to change too often. Every time you have to open your bag, grab something, it's not always easy, especially in certain locations. Now, another thing that was a big problem and that was really preventing me from going the extra mile and going mirrorless was simply that the electronic viewfinder didn't have a good enough resolution. It felt a little bit mushy. I didn't like the feeling too much at the time. And then, last but not least, also the lag. There was a little bit of lag between what you would be seeing and the reality, and that felt a little bit weird at the beginning and I didn't like it. But now we're in 2019 and things have completely changed. Alright, first of all, Sony released the a7R III end of 2017 and totally disrupted the whole ecosystems of mirrorless full frame cameras, in my opinion. And then lately in 2018, Nikon released the Nikon Z and Canon released the Canon R versions, and I think that's a huge shift from having just Sony trying to playing in that full frame mirrorless game, versus now you have also all the big players who are getting into it. Even Panasonic announced a full frame version, and that's where it gets great. So is it still worth it to have a DSLR in 2019? Should you go mirrorless? Well, there are a few points that you should still consider and that we should still talk about, especially with my experience after 1.5 years or more shooting with the a7R III. So let's get to that. So 2019 update in 18 months later. Here's what I think about my mirrorless, my full frame Sony a7R III, but I think nowadays it also applies to the Nikon Z from what I've tested quickly and the Canon R. So first of all, battery life highly improved, really good. I can shoot a whole day, photo, video, no problem. And that's something that, well, wasn't possible in the past, which is why I never changed. So if you're thinking about it, if battery life was an issue for you, well, nowadays, totally fixed. But don't get the version 2, for example, if you're getting on Sony. Make sure you get from the a7 III and Plus. If you're watching in the future, let me know in the comments what version of Sony we're at. I'm kind of curious to know how far in the field you're watching this. Next is simply the electronic viewfinders got way better. The resolution is actually really good, and that's something I recommend you if you're looking to buy a mirrorless camera. Make sure you have high resolution in your electronic viewfinder and on the back screen, because that's what you will be relying on to have an accurate information as to what your camera is seeing. On top of that, it is so fast to shoot with a mirrorless from my experience compared to a DSLR. When you have to change your settings, right? When you have to go from shooting silhouettes, exposing for highlights, to suddenly shooting a portrait and exposing for the shadows, well, you have a direct feedback in camera, in your electronic viewfinder and at the back of the screen, which makes it so practical, so easy. I've been in so many situations where I was just like switching all the settings super quickly. I had something happen in the street, I'm like, bam, I need to set my shutter speed higher, drop the aperture, I'm not sure if I'm exposed correctly, let's increase the ISO, and everything was happening live in the camera, and that was like magical for me. It also allows me to shoot a lot more with the back screen, which is great because then you can have lower angles, higher angles, you can look at it, you don't have to get stuck with your eye on the camera. Next is simply that reviewing photos has been amazing. In those conditions where it's like super bright outside, most of the time on a DSLR it's very hard to read at the back of your screen. You're squinting, you're not sure, you're trying to make shadows, etc. just to see better. Nowadays, with a mirrorless camera, you can simply review your image in the electronic viewfinder. So you put your eye to it, look into it, it's gonna block out everything else. Now let me share my two last biggest feedback about it, but we're gonna go somewhere a little bit nicer. Whew. So last two things to mention. I talked about the fact that lens choices used to be limited on the mirrorless full frame cameras. Nowadays, guys, it completely changed. You have everything you want. Everything's available. Even third-party lenses are available. They started doing a lot of lenses for Sony, for Canon, for Nikon that are compatible with their hybrid formats, with their mirrorless formats. So great advantage. That is not a concern anymore. Now, the last advantage that I really felt, especially during the world tour and in my everyday shoots, is that the form factor, meaning that camera is a lot smaller than a DSLR. And that's a great thing to know. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Good? Do you want to say hi?
Hi. Welcome to Vegas.
There you go. Welcome to Vegas, everyone. If you're living here, let me know in the comments, by the way. So DSLR are way bigger. And yes, whenever I can reduce the size of that pack, I will do it 100%. I already have the 70-200, which is taking a massive amount of space. If I have a big camera body in the bag, it gets really heavy, it's bulky. And also remember, at the end of the day, the best camera you have with you is the one you use the most. And the one you use the most is the one you have with you at all times. If it's too big, you're most likely gonna leave it on your table at home. That's why a lot of people move to Fuji or Olympus, because it's small. Their micro four thirds sensors makes it possible to have tiny lenses. That is a huge advantage. But if you're talking about full frame cameras, well, the Sonys have really good size. Canon is a little bit bigger, and the Nikon, I think, is similar size to the Canon R. So size has been a huge advantage for me over this world tour. So now, guys, I want to encourage you to share in the comments what is your gear. Let me know what you're shooting with. What is your setup? Are you mirrorless? Are you still DSLR? I want to know. To conclude, if you want to buy something new in 2019, definitely go into the mirrorless market. This is the future. DSLRs, I don't think they're gonna go very far, in my opinion, in the future. Now, if you're on a budget, I highly recommend you to get a second-hand great DSLR and get good lenses. That way you save a bunch of money and you still have the top of the line old cameras. That way, well, you spend more on your lenses, less on your camera body, and you still get great quality. And if you're hesitating in terms of brands, what I want to say is that maybe wait for the second release of the mirrorless cameras when it comes to Canon and Nikon, for the simple reason that first releases are usually, you know, it's not always the best. I mean, look at the Sony a7 I and a7 II. They were okay, but the a7 III is so much better. So if you can wait a little bit longer for the Nikon Z2 or Z version 2 or Canon R version 2, I think you will win big time. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna let you go here. I'm gonna go explore a little bit more, shoot a little bit more, and eat, most importantly. So I hope you have enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Are DSLR dead in 2019? Are you still using them? I want to know what you guys think. With that being said, guys, have an amazing day. Get out there, go shoot, try something different, try something new. And if you're new to this channel, hit that SUBS button, ring that notification bell. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Good morning, everyone. C'est quoi? Les appareils. On se demande si le DSLR... Comment on dit? J'ai aucune idée comment on peut faire ça. Ok, on va y arriver. Les appareils photo... Comment on dit en français? Bienvenue dans un nouvel épisode et le premier sur cette chaîne en français. Tape ce bouton, comment on dit en français? Follow, subscribe? Non, c'est quoi le bouton? S'abonner. Ah,